Yo, 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 what's happening, people? Spotlight on Spurs, first ever video is live. We've got 3 guests that are lined up to join us today. 2 of them will be joining us in a minute, but to bring in the first guest is Christopher Hubble. Welcome, Chris. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello, mate. How are you? How's things?
Not too bad, not too bad. First ever video. You're the first ever guest, so you're gonna go on the Hall of Fame.
It's a privilege.
Privilege and an honour. You know that. Right. So obviously before the show, I sent out some questions. Basically, we're going to be doing a review of the season. Obviously, pretty poor season. Sitting in joint 16th, I think it is. So plenty to discuss. But in terms of when we first started the season, kind of where were your thoughts in terms of where we would be?
Well, I think with just looking at the squad straight away and the transfers that we made, probably wasn't the best. Won't go down as our best transfer window. So we brought in some, got rid of some. But there was optimism there. I think it was a lot of youth coming in. I was quite skeptical, but I don't know, probably a top 7. I mean, he made the comment, Ange, at the start of the season saying he definitely winged things in his second year. So it gives you a bit of confidence, and you like that in your manager to do that. So you're hoping that obviously comes to light. But
so you saying that you expected us to finish 7th but win a trophy? Then is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably a domestic cup, League Cup, FA Cup, something like that. Obviously Europe's Europe. Anything can happen. But yeah, I reckon a domestic cup, top 7. That's where I was aiming to be.
So what we're saying, unless he wins the Europa League, then it's not been what you wanted.
Nah, not in the slightest.
You didn't think we'd finish 14th? No. Okay, fair enough. I must admit, I think whenever I have predictions, there's always 2 different predictions. You get like head predicting one thing and then your heart predicting another. So
yeah,
with 5th last year, you think like we have a couple of improvements, we can reach a top 4, and then you start actually sit back. Let me have a think about this. And yeah, I think 5th to 7th would have been a decent season. Certainly didn't see 14th coming along the way, but I think that obviously with the amount of injuries that we've had, I could definitely see why we've dropped off. But
yeah,
dropping off to 14th, that was 100% not where I thought we would end up being. So in terms of your thoughts on the season so far, then obviously the big question I suppose people will want to know is, are you Ange in, Ange out? We've obviously discussed this. You seem to be flipping and flopping. I think you've decided a little bit more recently, but you were flipping and flopping. So where do you stand?
Probably, I mean, obviously performances haven't been great. Individual performances haven't been the best. Probably some of the key things that sort of made me start swaying towards being Ange out was the treatment of when Brandon Austin went in goal, played really well, and then 4 days later got dropped because we signed a new keeper. I don't think that shows it doesn't show a lot of confidence in the youngsters looking at the manager going, well, he's come and played out of his skin, and then he ain't really going to get a chance. So that was sort of me thinking, well, hang on a minute, what's happening here? Are we going to start losing all our youth now? The sort of the products that we've got in our academy, how good it's meant to be, and there are some good players in there.
So you wasn't happy with the Kinski signing? Because I mean, when he first came in against Liverpool, we all thought that we'd signed the number 1 keeper in the world, the way he was playing it about and how confident he was and all of that.
I know. No, it wasn't the signing. I think the signing was needed, but it was the fact that I think it was a game before Brandon Austin played out of his skin, got man in a match, and then 4 days later gets dropped for a boy that's just been registered 24 hours before the game started. I didn't like the treatment of it. I thought Austin deserved another chance, and then sort of integrate Kinski in, maybe give Austin a little run in the team. Stepped up when he was needed for his first ever game for Spurs, I think at the age of 27. To then get dropped 4 days later, it's mad.
Few MLS. When his birthday, the day he was dropped as well, something like that. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But I don't think anyone expected him to come in and actually play this season. So the fact that he did come in and as you say, I think he played quite well is obviously is a good thing going forward. But I think the fact that they're the only homegrown players in the squad means that he's there. Other than that, I think that he would have probably been moved on. Especially, I think Whiteman will go at the end of the season. He'll be off. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it was a bit of a tight call. I mean, Kinski did come in and, as I say, have the debut of dreams. Like, what a debut he had. Yeah. But then it does seem that every game since he's kind of slid further and further down. But yeah, no, as I say, completely agree. So a couple of the other things that I was going to say were, in terms of like your player of the season, young player of the season. Obviously, I know it's early, but so far, what are your thoughts in terms of how people have played? Who surprised you? That sort of stuff. Because obviously there was quite a lot of changes made in terms of like the squad. We made quite a few signings, didn't we? So
yeah.
Was there anyone that you was expecting to do more, better? What's kind of thoughts on where you're player of the year?
When I was looking at the questions, I was looking at sort of player of the year, and I mean, I think there's a group of players that have had their moments when they've been playing, but obviously people have then obviously had injuries, and then it sort of broke it up. But for me, I think Archie Gray has been probably one of our outstanding players this year. Obviously playing in defence most of the time this season out of position. I think he's played right back, left back, centre mid, DM, centre back. He's just been chucked in where he's needed, and he's always sort of turned up and done the job. So I think he deserves
John O'Shea, isn't he? Modern day John O'Shea, just anywhere. James Milner, just go and play anywhere. 18 years old.
Yeah, which I don't really like, if I'm honest with you. I'd rather he just have his position and he plays there, and then sort of if we're as we was down to the bare bones, if he's needed, then we stick someone in there. But I think my biggest surprise, I think, and most people will probably say the same, is Jed Spence.
He's obviously
come out of nowhere, got a chance and just grabbed it and just took it, played left back, which I don't know if how comfortable he is playing at left back, but he's done really well. Then he shifted over to the right sometimes as well. But he's really stepped up probably this year since he's been really getting more game time and stepped in. He's been my biggest surprise.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people seem to be saying now that he should have always been playing. I think it's really easy to say that. I mean, considering some of the loan spells that he had. I mean, he went to Leeds. He didn't really hit it off. I know he had a really good spell at Forest when they came up, but went Leeds, was out in France, then went out to Italy, and obviously didn't seem to hit the ground running out there. I know he had that interview, didn't he? The interview is. Did you see the interview?
I'm not really. To be honest with you guys, I try not to get too involved because there's interviews tend to get you only see the 6 seconds of like we have we've seen this season with managers and everyone else who have had interviews. So you need to sort of watch, if you've got the time, to watch the full interview, because you only see the good clips and the bad clips and everything else. So
yeah, so in the interview he spoke about when he went out on loan, the fact that he never had a house, there was nowhere for him to stay. He was like in hotel rooms and like kind of giving you a little bit of the details into like, obviously you make a move and people just think that they're multi-million-pound signings, they've got huge wages, they should just be able to like get on with life sort of thing. But he was kind of going into the fact that it's not as easy as people make it out. So he was obviously in a country that he's probably been to, but he certainly hasn't played in, and probably hasn't lived in for a considerable amount of time. And then obviously doesn't know certain players. I think he ended up building up some good relationships with the wingers, particularly Doku. But yeah, he was kind of going into it a little bit and kind of said that it really built up his character because it was obviously such a difficult time for him. And then obviously he comes back to Spurs and basically we're trying to ship him out and get rid of him. But yeah, I completely agree. In terms of the player of the season then, so there was a lot of shouts at the start of the season, like Kulusevski, for instance, was obviously playing really well. Solanke came in early on, seemed to get a couple of injuries, seemed to get a few injuries. And he was so consistent last year. He played 38 games and then comes to us, and in the second game he's out, which is, it seems to be a bit of a story of our season really in terms of injuries. But is there anyone else that kind of stood out for you? Like obviously, as I say, Kulusevski played superb. I feel Spencer's even in for a shout. I know he's only been for a few games, but
yeah.
Do you want to answer, Jake? Are you Ange in or Ange out?
Probably swaying to Ange, but I'm still quite neutral. I'm still trying to sort of grasp onto any good hope that there is. But as I say, it's hard to be when the performance, the positions, the tactics, everything just seems to be going. It's not a good watch at the minute watching Spurs. You don't put the TV on when we're playing and go, this is it. I'm looking forward to this. You go, oh, what's it going to be? Are we going to turn up, or are we going to get sort of hammered every game? So it's a tough affair at the minute. But I've seen them come out and said they're going to do an end of season review, and they still want to work with him. So there must be something obviously that they can see that that makes them want to do that, because I mean the Spurs fan base is pretty split from what I've seen online and on the social media side of things. Is you don't sort of, normally it's everyone's either get him out or no, he's doing a good job, but there is a big divide in the Tottenham fan base with keeping him in or keeping him or getting rid of him. So I think it's going to be a question that goes on until the end of the season. Then we start next season. If he does stay, it's going to be the same thing. He'll be judged on the first 5 games of the season, unless it'll all start up again. Unless he's doing really well, then it'll be a case of it's a good thing that we kept him.
Yeah, don't you think that should happen all the time though? I don't feel like there should be a case of we don't do a review. Why would we not do a review? Even if you have a successful one, you should still look to do reviews and have a look to see whether or not things can change. Or because even if you're winning titles, I mean, if City just got to the end of the season and actually didn't do reviews, then what's the whole what's the whole point? Like, they're not going to keep being successful, are they?
I think as well the trouble is that the people doing the reviews, obviously the top of the club, so you've got your Daniel Levy's and that who are reviewing it, and again there's a big sort of he's getting a lot of backlash at the minute as well. There's obviously fan protests and stuff about him going. So if everyone was on board with the management at a higher level, I think a review needs to be done for me, it'd be the medical staff, the coaching staff and the scouting staff, because I think all 3 of them areas it all contributes to having a poor season. I mean, obviously the manager sets the tactics and everything else, but you just need to, I think, a full scale club review. It's not just the manager, it needs to be everything else, and make changes where it's necessary.
Yeah, I feel like it needs a review across everything. Like,
yeah,
there's so many different aspects of this club where we seem to be struggling. I mean, the medical department has been shocking for years. You look at the recruitment, it hasn't been much better.
Yeah.
There's literally just so many facets of this club that need to be looked at. Even like director of football. I mean, we must be the only club in the world that go and get a Paratici, and then all of a sudden he's out for 18 months, like banned and everything else is just absolutely crazy. So yeah, I completely agree. I think, but as I say, I feel like the review should take place regardless. I don't care whether you're successful or whether you're a Man City. There's no point getting to the end of the season and just thinking, yeah, that's all right, we've done well or whatever, when the facts is that you've got to have a review all the time. You've constantly got to be looking at new ways, because if you like Man City, for instance, as I say, that if they win the league, then they're now where everyone wants to get to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean the board as well must have a vision of when they signed him at the start of last season, like what's year 1, what's year 2, what's year 3? Because I think was it a 4-year contract he's got?
Yeah, I think it is.
A 4 with a year to extra to be added if we want to use it. So I mean he's halfway through his contract at the minute, and if the board look at that and go, last season we done okay, wasn't great, but it was a rebuild season, and then this season they turn around now and say, well, hang on a minute, we've finished. If we end up finishing in the bottom 10, it's not. It shouldn't be a good review, but it's tough, as I say, because I personally feel like if it was any other manager in any other team, they wouldn't be a manager at the club at the end of the season. I think he'd be gone.
Yeah, 100%. So the two Mark show said this is the worst manager he's seen in 50 years. Now, obviously, you're not 50, Chris, but is he the worst manager that you've ever seen at Spurs?
I mean, it's hard to say no to that, isn't it? Because of how we've played, performances, results. You look at the stats and the league table. It's probably hard to say no. But then I think the last time we won a trophy was 2008. And you look at the managers between then and now. I mean, even one day Ramos won us a trophy. I think he won us the last one. He was only in charge for 2 or 3 months, if that. So I'd probably have to agree and say, yeah, it's probably it has to be our worst manager.
And you're still not Ange out. That's a great shout.
As I say, I'm swaying. The big question I ask myself, and you've got to think about it logically, is if he was to get sacked tomorrow, who comes in? And I think end of the season we probably get Ryan Mason to steady the ship till the end. But then who do we get in as our next sort of permanent manager? And that's a question that I don't know the answer to. There's not a definite. You don't look at it and go, I definitely want him. There's about 3 or 4 managers that obviously you see names getting floated about. It's just whether you do you take a gamble on someone? Do you get a big name in? We've tried the big names, didn't work. We've tried the gambles, hasn't seemed to pay off. And that to me is the bigger question. It's not about Ange in or Ange out. It's more of if Ange does go, who do we get in? And I don't think anyone can definitely answer that question because there's no one that's sort of like everyone's going to get him back.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of my big things as well is the fact that I literally don't. The other people that are going to come in, or the rumours of the people that are going to come in, I'm just not sure about. Like they don't guarantee anything, as you say. We've gone through so many different. But then the other side of that is that you don't just stick to something that ain't working just because you don't want to change it. Do you know what I mean? So I think there has to be some sort of balance there. But it's just a bit of a strange one, to be honest with you. I know that there's a lot of injuries. I know that things have been going there's a lot of players that are currently struggling, but I just feel like he should have definitely made some sort of adjustments to kind of get us into a better position. But saying that, if he goes and wins the Europa League, then what do you say to that?
But can you still count it as a successful season? I mean, yes, we all get the trophy that we've been after for however many years, 17 years, but it's a case of everything else that comes with that. And I mean, we've probably got lucky and burgled some points in the Europa League table, and then I think next game it's not going to be easy, not an easy team to come up against, and I think that will show. And when you look at the players individually on the pitch and how they obviously have been playing recently, you got to wonder: is their heart in it? Are they still playing for him? Are they tired? Is it could be a number of reasons why they're playing the way that they are. It's just finding that. I mean, you say we all hope that we can win the trophy. It'd be nice to get something, but I don't know if you still win that. Do you count that a successful season? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it will be the first trophy in God knows how long. Obviously, that's the first thing. But then the other part of that is that there's uproar within the fan base that Jose Mourinho was sacked the day before a final. So how can you then, if a manager wins you something, how can you then sack him? Are we kind of like in a Ten Hag situation at United where
he gets another season because he's won something,
and then if it don't work after 3 months, you're then sacking someone who's all right, hasn't worked for 3 months. He won you a trophy, but do you know what I mean? I feel like that's the kind of situation we'd be in. But I still feel like it's like the Europa League is obviously. It was almost as if like Spurs should definitely be winning this in some sections of the fan base, but I feel like a lot of people are like, well, I think we went from we were favourites joint with United. I think now I've seen that we're like third or fourth favourites. So within the bookies, who are not often wrong, they think that we ain't really got much of a chance.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to our performances recently. Like it's if we was playing really good football, we was winning games comfortably, you'd probably sell us as favourites, but unfortunately we've got all the players back and we're still not playing to what should be our full potential, and we should be winning games comfortably. So yeah, I understand why we've dropped down from the favourites.
So Sam's come in and said, do you think going back to Poch is a step forward or a step backwards? This is interesting because I've seen on loads of different channels, there are some people that are saying, like, get him in now, I want him now, and others that are going, never, ever, ever go back.
I think, again, as you've said, though, you think with your heart and then you think with your head. And I think every Spurs fan, probably the big majority of us, your heart says, get him back in, that's what we want. And then your head probably goes, well, hang on a minute, is it still too soon to get him back? But you look at
what's changed? I know the play-in squad's obviously changed because it was a while ago. But what has actually changed?
I don't. Well, I mean, he went to PSG. He's gone.
No, I'm talking about from our point of view. In terms
from our point of view,
as a club, what's changed on our side? I mean, it didn't work under Levy, and then he's going to come back, and Levy's still here. That you could argue that the squad that he left is definitely a better squad than we've probably got now. When you're talking your Kanes and Sons, Ericssons, do you know what I mean? So the team is probably in a better spot than it was. It needed investment. Don't get me wrong. It needed some fresh ideas. We didn't make a signing for 16 years or whatever it was, but I don't know whether the squad's in a better shape now than what it was. So what does he get from coming now?
Nah, it is a tough question, because if he comes in and he literally could turn around and say, I want to get rid of half the squad, half that 25-man squad, I want half of them gone, are we going to then go and give him the money to go and replace them with 12 players that can sort of play in the Premier League to a top 6 standard straight away, which is what we want? Whether that money is available, whether that's possible or not, I don't know. But again, if he comes in and chooses a different approach and tries to build something and bring in the youth, that's going to obviously take time. If he doesn't get the backing from the ownership, it could take 2 or 3 years worth of 3 to 6 transfer windows to get the squad that he needs over 3 years. So it's I think, as you say, your heart goes, get him in. I'd get him in a heartbeat, because of, obviously, I mean, we should have won the Premier League with him, and we ended up finishing 3rd. Then we got to a Champions League final, and
is that the most Spursy thing ever, though? Do you know what I mean? Like, we should have won. We should have won the league. What happened? Well, we finished 3rd. That's just the way that we are. But yeah, no, I with Poch especially, I can see we get Poch, and then we just go from one strength to another. And then I can also see the flip side of it. Like, I'm so 50-50 on it. It depends on what day you catch me on. But what Poch done is just, I know we didn't win anything, but that Champions League final, I felt like there wasn't many players that were at the club at that time that I didn't like. Like, every single one of them was kind of like, I liked them. We had obviously the season in the old stadium, the last season, where we was unbeaten. It felt like every single game we went into, we were going to win, or we had a chance of winning. And I don't feel like we've had that for a very long time now.
I definitely think this season a lot of teams, probably your typical top 10 teams, they'd come either to Spurs or we would go to them. And I don't think they actually have the fear to play us. I think whether it's because we don't change our tactics too often, we play the same way every game, and everyone's just found a way to better that, and they go, well, we know how they play, we're just going to counter it, and we know how to outplay them. Or whether they go, do you know what, there's no confidence there, they don't look like they're ready to play. If we hit them early with a couple of goals, they might just crumble. But I think Tottenham have definitely, we're not a team now where, I think under Poch, definitely we would be a team, probably even under Mourinho as well, maybe even in Conte's first season. Teams, I think, would come to us and go, oh, it's going to be a tough game today. This is going to be tough. Whereas I think 100%. now I don't think. I think teams actually come to us and go, we can give this a go here. We could probably turn these over.
Yeah, 100%. We've lost that fear factor. Under Poch, it was relentless, wasn't it? So our second guest has joined us. Let's bring in the main man, Marlon from Spurs Kings TV. How are we doing?
What's happening? You right? Are you good, Luke? You well?
Weird being on the other side, mate. Weird being on the other side. I'm normally just the one joining, not starting all up.
Mate, get used to it. Get used to
Mate,
it.
I was going to say this is a long time coming, but I checked and it was only about a month ago that I actually joined your first ever, like you let me go on the first ever stream. So it ain't even been that long at all.
Power, man. That's what we do. We start people. We did the same thing with Elijah, so it's all good.
Mate, it's strange being on the other side, looking at chat and everything else, but we'll move on. We'll learn. So thanks for coming on. Obviously, I really appreciate it. I sent over some questions, obviously, at the start. We've just kind of been running through it in terms of like where the season's gone to and everything else. But first thing for you was, where did you think we'd finish at the start of the season? Where did you see it and think, yeah, this is where we'll get to?
I think I predicted 8th, but I also predicted that Ange was going to be sacked by Christmas.
Oh, right, okay.
So no, in all seriousness, I think there's a prediction out there, and everyone went, "Oh, you're chatting rubbish. Oh, Marlon, I can't." It was literally everywhere. And everyone was like, "I was like, no, he's gonna have a bad season. I know it is." And I thought, before Poch was named for USA, I thought we'd bring in Poch, and we'd end up finishing 8th. And that was how I predicted the season. Now, most of that has gone to how I've kind of seen it, but sacking Ange at Christmas was the bit that I got completely wrong.
Yeah,
but he probably should have been.
A lot of people would say that. Funnily enough,
Yeah.
we just had someone in the chat say, "Do you think that going to Poch is a step forward or backwards right now?"
For us, it's a step forward. As a club, it is a step backwards because Poch will just accept. Because the way he's flirting with us doesn't strike me with confidence. I don't like the way he wants to come back, and it just at the end, where I think of it is, I go, does that mean you're going to accept everything that Levy throws at you? If you're going to accept it, then there's no point you coming back, because you're just going to be in the same situation in a year's time, 2 years' time.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it
exactly
going
what
like
we just said. That's exactly what we just said. What has actually changed since?
I think everyone's nostalgic because we're sitting in 14th right now. So everyone's looking at it going, with Poch, we'd be sitting mid-table. But when we want to take that next step, you've then got to ask yourself, is Poch the right man to do that? And I don't know. I'd love to have him back. I'm not going to sit there and say I don't want him back. But long term, I don't know if he's going to be the man to actually take us forward.
Yeah, 100%. I know, but also is, in terms of where we are right now, is that where people think that Ange is going to take us? Like, for instance, let's say next year Ange gets 8th. Is it worth getting rid of him and bringing in Poch? You'll get a 7th. You know, I think this is where, obviously, we're so far off it right now.
Look, if Ange could get us 8th, Poch is definitely finishing 4th.
Here comes the last one of today's show. Mr. Durag Diaries, how are we doing, sir?
My bad, people. As for some of the viewers, I tried to end the show. I was trying to end the show, but there was just Spurs chaos going on. Dan and Jay, Ange talk. They couldn't start. And then Marlon, he got like a revitalized. He's like, wait, hold on. I heard something. I didn't like. And as you guys know, the back and forth was going crazy. So we was trying to end, but we're here. We're here now. Sorry for the lateness, but make sure you smash the like, people.
Ange was goat tier. That's all I care about. As long as Ange was top, that's all that matters. No more, no less. Literally, we was just sitting here discussing about Poch. So we've had a question from the chat. Is Poch a step forward or step backwards?
Step back for me, man. As much as he's not a worse manager than Ange in particular, he's not. It's a step back because he's someone that we've already seen before. Since Spurs, he's not had a good time at anyone. Like, he's not moved on. If Pochettino went forward, went to bigger clubs, done better things, won some trophies, and it was like, yeah, he's been better since he's gone Spurs, then I'd be open to bringing him back. But why would you bring him back after he's literally just got knocked out by Panama and Canada for USA? They couldn't beat. I know it's considered their rivals, but they're nations that are far below them footballing wise, and they couldn't get the job done. And I mean, his tactics look outdated. His coaching no longer is what it was 10 or so years ago. And maybe just the air got to his head. And at the time at Spurs, you know, he was feeling himself a bit too much, you know, trying to rub off like the League Cups, the FA Cups, trying to think he's bigger than that. And he hasn't done anything since. So I'm just really not for bringing Poch back. I know a lot of people want it, but I'm not for it at all.
I can see both sides because he was the first manager in, I think it's 8 years at PSG that hadn't won a league. He was the first one. And then when he came in at Christmas, he was 1 point off the league. And he still finished 1 point off the league. So he didn't even win that at PSG. And then losing them 2 games probably come at the worst possible time, because I think all of the fan base started to get on the Poch train, and then he goes and loses to Panama, and you think.
But the only thing I'd say to caveat to all that too. Now let's take Chelsea. Chelsea were a crap. They were in a shit situation. He managed to get them to finish that season. So last season he had a terrible start, but once he got them going from January to May, I think they lost 2 games, and that was the battering to Arsenal and someone else, and which then Maresca carried that on.
Yeah, there was a lot of people couldn't believe that they got rid of him. There was a lot of Chelsea fans that were like, I don't understand. I can understand at the start of the season, but not.
So, and this is where I get what half of George is saying. George is saying, yes, okay, if he'd gone on and do better things. However, we're not. It depends on what you're expecting Poch to do. Yeah. What's he coming back to do? If you're expecting titles and 4th places, that's not happening under Poch. But if it's about enjoying the football, finishing round 8, and in the top 8, and just enjoying supporting Spurs again, Poch will do that for you. But it depends on what your aim is for Tottenham, because right now Postecoglou's got us in such a bad place. And it's not just Postecoglou. This comes from Conte football and Mourinho football as well. Mm-hmm. So fans are in this mindset of, I just want to go back to 2016, where it was all great. And that's what everyone's thinking. But they're not actually thinking about the bigger picture. We've moved into the new stadium. We don't have a Harry Kane. We don't have that clutch player in our squad right now that Chelsea had in Cole Palmer. So is Poch really going to say, I don't take the 2 results that he's had with the USA, because Poch always has bad starts. Wherever he goes, he has bad starts. It's that middle part where I go, yeah, but when he wanted to take you over the line, that's not what Poch is coming in to do. So people have to make up their mind on deciding what they want from this long term. If they're expecting Poch to come in and win trophies, forget it. Poch is not the man. But if you just want to go back to mid-table and being around that top 8, Poch is the man for us right now, because Ange's just taking us the wrong way.
But I think that is a question that the Spurs fans need to think to themselves in terms of what do we consider success. Because I said this yesterday, that there's no way that we're going to win league titles, like 2, 3. It's just not going to happen. So for me, it's the odd cup at the moment under this regime, the way that we operate. You're just not going to go and be a powerhouse. So for me, like if we finish like 6th and won a trophy, that to me is a hugely successful season, because I can't see us doing any more than that. So there's no point judging someone on will they get us to a league title, will they be able, because the fact is, how are we going to get there?
But does anybody, and I'll ask you guys, everyone on the panel, but does anybody expect us to be fighting for league titles?
Probably not in a minute, no. I don't think when you look at the teams above us, I don't think we're at this where we've got the caliber, we're at the stage. I think, and it comes down to, again, it's not, you can obviously look at the manager for the on-pitch results, but as me and Luke spoke about earlier, it's the full club and it's the setup of the club. If the top has got an idea of how they want to take the team, if it's not football-based, the football's just going to suffer. So I don't think at the minute, I can't remember what season it was, Man City needed to get wing backs, and they went out and spent like 200 million on 2 left backs, 2 right backs, and it was like that is the difference between a top class team that's going to go and challenge for titles and us. We're just not going to go out and do that.
I think, yeah, no, I'd agree. I don't think our team's ready to challenge for any titles. And I don't think our squad was ever good enough at this point to do anything of that level. I feel like one of our biggest issues has been, obviously, I'm sure it's been touched on, is the ambition from the owners to not want to do that, because we've been close enough of where we could potentially challenge for a title, but they never want to push the boundary and try and really make that push happen. So yeah, I think challenging for titles isn't going to happen anytime soon under ENIC, but getting ourselves into a challenging position where we can push into that top four, maybe be like the best of the rest type of thing, the next best thing outside the title challengers. I don't know if we're ready for that just yet with how young our team is, but I don't think we're too far off as well, because when you look at the teams that are in that position, obviously you'd say Arsenal, Liverpool are better than the rest, and then Arsenal, Liverpool, City, and then you have obviously Chelsea, Newcastle, and some of the rest. I don't think those teams are much better than, they're definitely better than us. There's no doubt about that, but I don't think they're levels above.
Yeah, we're in and around that. We're in and around that.
You're sort of hoping for an overachieving season, aren't you? A season that with Poch, where we, as you said earlier, we could have won the league and finished third. It's an overachieving season, and it's just it never happened again like that. We never ever got to that position where we were challenging for the league.
And we've definitely missed out on a big opportunity this season because Manchester City have fallen way off. Now, Liverpool, people would go, they've won the title, but have Liverpool been that great this season? If you've been looking at it, they've been winning games, don't get me wrong, but they haven't been like high-flying Liverpool that we saw at the Klopp. And then Arsenal this season, they've drawn so many, so you actually could probably see the season as where if we'd done it properly and probably gone out and backed Ange, it's kind of in a situation where if we had a better manager, we could have exploited this season and had that lucky season. But now we're in a situation where Newcastle are around and Chelsea came. Look, Chelsea have probably exploited it the most from this year because they probably still didn't have the best team, but they've managed to get themselves back in a position. Newcastle winning the League Cup is dangerous. I don't think people realise the steps that they are now going to start trying to take. And I think it's not just for them. It's either going to elevate them, or they're just going to live off this for the rest of their lives. But for me personally, I think the owners are going to show enough ambition to actually want to then take them to the next level. So it's interesting. The whole thing's interesting, I think. And that's the problem that Spurs now have, because they've gone down this route of youngsters, but everyone's now looking at it going, okay, we've gone down this route, we're going to be good in 3 or 4 years' time. But these other clubs are doing stuff now. And if you're trying to play catch up with these teams, you're stuck because you're always going to be playing catch up. And that's the problem we're going to have if we don't play it smart. And that's the way we've got to be, because back when we did finish the 4th and 5th, Manchester City weren't the Manchester City they were, and it was only a top 4. But now we're looking at it going, well, there's a top 6, there's a top 7, there's a top 8. The other clubs like Brighton and Bournemouth and the other clubs are using data models like we are. And you look at someone like Brighton, who you could bring in any manager who looks like from the world right now who plays attacking football, stick it in Brighton, and they're going to do well for some reason, because they're running the club in such a way. It's not about the manager. It's about the way the club's being run. And that's why I think a lot of people, when you look at it, the club is run so poorly that you have to give credit and to someone like Antonio Conte, who got where he got to with the squad that he got to. And it's no surprise he's gone back to Italy, and Napoli are second, I think, now. He's not a crap manager. It's just the football might not be to everyone's cup of tea, but he's still a good manager. And he showed everybody what he can do at Spurs. And the problem we've now got with managers is when they're looking at the whole Spurs situation, because everyone's going Areola. Areola could be in Europe next year with Bournemouth. What's he going to be? Why is he going to come to Spurs when you look at someone like Kompany, who's got the Bayern Munich job from getting relegated with Burnley? He doesn't need to leave Bournemouth to go get a good job in a couple of years. He could see out his contract, and he will have better clubs than Tottenham coming after him. And this is the bit, and I get it. I get
that's
people
controversial, Marlon, man. I don't know about that. I don't know.
He will do. He will do. If he does well at Bournemouth next year as well, because everyone's going, they won't do well in Europe. But say he goes and does well. If he's meant to be this good manager, he will go do well in Europe. Spurs are not, and a lot of people are looking at what happened with Conte and Mourinho as managers and going, do I want to take that? Do I really want to take that as my next step?
But that's why I think maybe the whole sticking with Ange thing might work in a little bit in our favour, in terms of people might think, well, now at least I'm going to get some sort of time.
Yeah.
Like if he got time, then
Maybe.
surely the next one will get time. I've said this for a couple of days now. I've got this feeling that he just wants Ange to stay another year so that he can go for Poch. Poch at 2026, I think he'll be off, and I feel like he just wants to. In an ideal world, will improve. He'll keep Ange for a year if he can, and then go for Poch at the end of the summer.
Look at the manager list they've drawn up. I'm gonna sit there. I will sit there and tell you those are the 3 managers that every bloody YouTuber or X or an Instagram have been naming for the last year. Every single one of them. It was like, okay, let's try and get the fan. Let's name the 3 managers that they've all been mentioning: Thomas Frank, Iriola, Marco Silva. Marco Silva wasn't considered last year. Come on, it's only because fans have been mentioning and they're trying to get back on side. It's all a smokescreen, man. It's all smokescreen. And a lot of people don't agree with me about the Areola thing there, but watch this space. Watch this space. Why would he want to come to Spurs when he has seen how the last few matches, and if he's a progressive manager and he wants to aim for bigger and higher things, why would he want to come to Spurs? Please, I don't get what people are seeing, because he's just watching what's happening with Ange, and he's getting a back in the
you have to look at it away from why would he come to Spurs, though, because I was thinking about this. Why would he come to Spurs mid-season? And I think mid-season he wouldn't have came to Spurs. It doesn't look like a good move. He's not going to gain no plaudits from lifting Spurs from 14th to 10th or anything like that. So that would be a bad move for him. But at the end of the season, it just makes sense. You go from a club like Bournemouth to Tottenham because there's more. As much as Bournemouth is above us right now, there is still more ambition at Spurs. There's more to achieve at Spurs. There's more that you get from achieving.
You say that, but are Spurs showing you that though?
Then they're not showing you that there's more ambition.
Exactly, and that's the thing that everyone's forgetting. Because
but at the same time,
showing you that
when you look at like how we can maneuver in the transfer window and how Bournemouth can, there's limits to what Bournemouth can do in that transfer window.
But go look at our last transfer window. We're not moving like.
I totally get. I don't think Spurs are going crazy, but when you're comparing it to a team like Bournemouth, ultimately for them to push on next season, they're probably going to have to sell one of their stars to bring in some funds so that they can then reinvest in some other players, which they have to hope that the talent ID is good enough. Because when we're looking at, let's be honest, Semenyo, Kluivert, Kirkes, one or 2 or 3 of them are probably going to get picked up. And then Bournemouth are going to be left, with Iraola having to pick up the pieces, which I don't think a manager like him is going to be comfortable doing. As much as he has done good coaching when they've had injuries and so on, no one wants to consistently lose their stars and have to rebuild their squad. He obviously lost Solanke last year to us. Then he could be using Kirkes is literally the hottest one. He's going to go. And then you've got to talk about whether Kluivert or Semenyo will be on the move, which I think Semenyo will be on the move, and he may stay. But again, I don't know if he's going to be so hot on doing this rebuild every single year with a team like Bournemouth.
Yeah, but what's he doing? But he's going to be doing the same thing as Spurs. The Spurs are acting exactly the same way, and Spurs are not acting. And this is the issue that we're having. If it was after Poch and it was just the bit between me, I'd have gone okay. But what Spurs have shown in the last 5 years, managers are watching this. And if you're an ambitious manager, why is Spurs then becoming an attractive offer when we're acting like the Bournemouths? We're acting like the Brightons. We're not acting like the Liverpools or the Chelseas or the ones that we're trying to catch. And that's the bit that's going through my head is Areola will be looking at this going, do I really want to take that job? Admittedly, it's not going to do nothing for his reputation because every manager's fouled, but will you really want to take a job where he's looking at going, well, they act like Bournemouth. They do everything like Bournemouth, but they could just spend more money, and they don't really spend on wages anyway. So, it's a case of it depends on Areola's ambition in my eyes, and depending on whether he thinks he can give Bournemouth another season. Because yes, they might sell their what's his name, Kirkes, but who's to say that Bournemouth don't go and sign somebody just as cheap and he doesn't do well as well? Because when you look at Spurs, when we sign players, how many actually go to do very well at the moment? Very minimal. We're still relying on Son, and he's 32.
That's what I keep saying. They keep buying these players, but they're not as good as the players that we're selling. So like people are talking about Romero. I've seen a lot of fans celebrate the fact that we could be getting 60, 70 million for him. But I don't think we're not
going to replace the quality of Romero, and that's the key thing, because we've got Danso, Dragushin, and Van der Ven. And knowing Spurs, they're just going to go, oh, let's go buy an average defender. Who's to say that's even going to work?
I think we might be able to get away with it next year if we don't have Europe. you might be able to get away with having a Vuskovic involved.
We don't need such a big squad, do we? That's the problem.
But then
that gives Levy an excuse, Luke. That's the thing. That gives him an excuse not to go sign players because we don't need a bigger squad. You can start to rely on some of these younger players. And also, I don't know about you guys. A season with playing 1 game weeks just fucking boring, man. I was so bored that last season. Like, just sat there waiting 7, 8 days for a game, sometimes 9 or 10 days. Like, it was dreadful, man. Like,
it's a bit like now,
even just making content, like, it's boring.
I was just gonna say, I've ended this game.
Wrong time, slight channel, mate.
Wrong time. But the other flip side of that about with Areola is he's had massive injuries, and people have been saying, "Oh, he's been able to get results and this, that, and the other." He hasn't been playing anywhere near the amount of games that we have. I think he's actually played in his Bournemouth career. He's had 10 cup games, and we played that in the Europa League just this year. So if he gets Europe next year and his play style gets the sort of injuries, then maybe he's in for a season a bit like we are, and then does he stock then? Imagine if a Bournemouth then start finishing 14th, 15th after is it a very similar comparison in terms of Anjo? He's had a bit of luck the first year, second year's really struggled. Do you know what I mean? It's like it could work the other way.
But with Areola though, because he's been in the Premier League the same time as Ange, he's gone like this, where Ange started up here and went down like that. So you can see why a lot of people are looking at Areola and seeing very, very much what Poch did at Spurs when he was obviously at Southampton. But it's not about whether we want Areola. For me, it is about if Areola wants Tottenham. And I think a lot of fans, and I think that's why everyone's going against me, is because they think Tottenham's this big, massive selling point. Yes, we have a stadium. Yes, we have a training ground. The players we attract, okay, yes, they're different caliber, but the way this club is run is still a big problem. And the fans at the moment don't want the ownership, so there's a protest and everything. And and Areola might look at it and go, "Do I really want to go into a troubled club right now?"
And that's the other thing with the other 3 managers, is that they're all at.
And
Fulham haven't been fully stable, but recently under his tenure they have been. I know they had a bit of trouble with Mitrovic. I don't think he wanted to go. Then there was talks of Silva going to Saudi, but the fact he stayed tells me that he probably got a little bit more assurance to say you'd have a little.
I was reading somewhere that Areola likes to see out his contract. I don't know how true that is. Just something that he wants to do. He likes to see out his contract, and I believe that he's got 1 more year after this.
Yeah.
So. And there's nothing really coming out of Bournemouth at the moment to go that he actually wants to even make the move.
None of the stories seem to make sense to me, because
they just don't add up.
Yesterday it was, we're going to break out and go for Paratici. We put in a great offer for him. Now, I might be wrong, but I don't feel like these 3 managers are a Paratici. I don't think they're what he would want to put in. So therefore, would you go and get a director of football that you're really going after, that you're really going to break the bank to get, and then appoint a manager that he didn't want in the first place? Because that's not how Paratici works. It's all about Paratici comes in and makes the decisions, basically. So for me, all of the stories, it seems to just be a bit of a scattergun. Let's spread out loads of stories and hopefully one will be right. Because also, I don't even feel like they're the same sort of philosophy. I mean, the whole point of Ange is that we was going back to that attacking, pressing football, and then you've got Marco Silva, who's kind of flip-flop in between. Frank's quite a defensive coach. So even the 3 that are lined up, none of them actually play a similar sort of, I think Silva and Areola play a similar system, but the way they play is completely different. So, and when you go back to like your Brightons, it's almost like a decision at the top. This is how we're going to play. This is what we're going to do. And then we'll get a manager that fits that. We're not just going to get the best manager that's there. We're going to go one that fits with us. Or we don't seem to be making them decisions.
I think it's also a big argument as well that Ange hasn't been sacked yet. So there's also the big possibility that he might get the extra year. Floating all these names about it sort of gives the fans a bit of hope, because obviously we're in the situation we're in now. But it could all just be that Ange stays for another year. What happens then? What do we do with that if it still goes down the same trajectory as it's going down, and we don't play well and we don't get the results? We end up sitting in 16th, 17th place again. At what point then have you maybe missed the boat by not taking another manager on as well? Because you've kept your faith in the manager. You think obviously that you started a project with 2 years ago, and you think, you know what, we're going to give you one more season, because again, if he does win the Europa League, does he get the extra season to prove it?
Have you read my notes? Because that's the next thing we're going to discuss is the hopes for the rest of the season. You've just basically started it. Right. Look at that. That's perfect. So do you think we're going to win the Europa League then?
No.
Good. Right. Brilliant. Marlon.
The way we've been playing in the last few weeks, no.
Do you think we'll get past Frankfurt?
I don't think we'll even get past Frankfurt at the present moment. I haven't. When you went to why I'm saying that is you went to Alkmaar in the biggest game and you played poorly. Yes, it was an own goal. Hey ho. And then the home game was just as poor. The games in between it, you can't just switch it on and switch it off when you want. Mm-hmm. So the league form's got to pick up if they're thinking of getting this Europa League. So that's why I'm saying no.
And the problem we have with that is that we don't get much time to pick up the up in league form. We got Chelsea away from home, and then we got Southampton. Albeit Southampton's a free hit. You don't take no confidence from beating them. Everyone's beaten them. So going into that, unless you win both of those games, then you could be like, yeah, this is looking all right. But
is anybody here? If I said to everybody here though, are you that confident that we'll beat Southampton? There's doubt in your mind of, especially what happened after Leicester, that Southampton could probably pull our pants down and I get a result, and that's concerning. The fact that, and we're meant to be trying to get this.
It could be very similar to that time. This is just reminding me of that time under Conte. You remember what we spoke about earlier when he lost that Southampton game, he lost that Burnley game, and it just got really sour really quick. That month of like sort of February to March, it was literally like around this time. It was awful. And I think the only game we did win was like a big win against Aston Villa somewhere in between. It was like a 4-1, but then we just got pumped by every team. I've just got a feeling that the end of this season may be very similar. And although I'm confident we could actually beat Frankfurt in the first leg, I don't think we'll go through. I think Frankfurt just the second leg, they're going to beat us 2-0, 3-1, and they just knock us out. That's exactly what will happen.
Yeah, we basically need an Ange performance in both home legs, whether it's against Frankfurt. We need that 4-1. You know, when we beat Villa and West Ham at the beginning of the season, we need basically those performances in the next 2 Europa League games at home to even stand a chance. Because everyone's thinking it's going to be Lazio. But Bodo Glimt, I tell you now, are causing some surprises, and I think they will be the ones to hurt us the most, even if they knock out Lazio. And it's just a case of I just can't see how we're going to get any sort of result in any of these games. But we just need to bring out the best 2 performances of the season again. But who knows?
Yeah, I've seen some people just basically say that the league's a write-off, and I think that's just crazy to do so early on. I'm not saying we can play for anything, but you're right. If we're in the Europa League and we go and lose the next 9 league games, what sort of preparation is that? Or even draw 9 league or whatever. You need to get some sort of momentum into. I understand that the day before, I think there's a couple of games where we'll be playing like 4 days after and that sort of stuff. So players are going to be rested, which the fans are going to have absolute uproar about, because as soon as we rest the player, it's uproar, and when we should have rested the player. But that's a different scenario and different question. But I definitely feel like we've got to start picking up some. I don't think it's just necessarily the results. I think it's the performances as well. Andrew's brought in to play that sort of football, the 4-1s against the 4-0 against City, that sort of football. And if we keep playing the way that we've been playing, I feel like his end of the season is gone regardless.
Yeah, the boys definitely need a bit of a confidence boost, and they're only going to get that by playing games and grinding out a result. You get 3 points, and I'm sure it gives them a massive lift. As you say, this doesn't help that our next game is obviously Chelsea, and then you got Southampton.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I just feel like the Europa League, if he wins it, I feel like he has to stay. I don't think he's going to win it. The more and more I think
that's
about
copium from league. Now you see, look, now you know what is the closer the days coming, you start to realize it's not gonna.
George, it's doing YouTube, isn't
it? That is though. When you speak about it so much, you start to actually realize all the different things that come into play, and you start to hear some facts about Spurs, and then you just realize, you know what, we are Spurs. Like, we've been in this position so many times. We got ourselves riled up for a big quarterfinal just to be slapped back down by a team like Frankfurt. It just happens. I remember when we faced Leipzig in the knockout rounds of the Champions League, and we just got clapped. And it was just like, even with better teams away from home, we'd never do good in Europe in these fixtures. So
I think that's forgotten about as well with this fan base. We don't realise how bad our away form in Europe's been. I mean, like Conte and Mourinho they're the stars that a lot of people kind of talk about. And one lost to Mora, the other one lost to a manager in prison. Like, it's that we are at that level, and it happens quite regularly across different seasons. But no, I completely agree. I think that with the Europa League, it's going to be a difficult run. I don't think it's as easy as some people are making out. But I think they're third, aren't they, Frankfurt at the moment? They're not third in the German league.
Third or fourth, yeah, they're doing pretty good.
So league position don't look great on our end, that's for sure. So that's obviously the hope for the end of the season. So in terms of when we get to the end of the season, what do you think needs to change? And we haven't got all night, so we can't sit here and list everything. But what are the main things that we all feel needs to change for
realistic or unrealistic?
Let's do a bit of both. Why not? This is Spurs. Nothing's unrealistic. I mean, we went and got Mourinho and Conte, and then sacked Mourinho before a final. There's nothing as well.
Yeah, well, no, the reason why I say that is because I think everyone on this panel can agree the unrealistic thing that needs to change is Daniel Levy stepping away.
Yeah.
Without it's just it's kind of pointless kind of scenario because you know where we're going to be. But I'll let the couple guys answer the rest.
Yeah,
before I say mine, I have to think about it.
We touched on it earlier, Luke, but I mean the coaching staff, the medical staff, the scouting staff, everything in the club in the background, I think needs to be looked at. Whether the injuries this season have been based on training methods, recovery, or whatever it may be, just too many games. The scouting's not been, I don't think anyways, been good enough. We've not pulled in the talent, and I mean we're used to pulling in players that they always play good in other leagues, but don't tend to then perform in our league. And then the coaching staff, I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in if a manager's got the tactics, the coaching staff should be preparing these players and obviously helping them to get the best out of them. And if we're not doing that, then all across that needs to be looked at and reviewed and changed as well. And obviously with what Marlon said there about Levy, I don't think anything actually will change unless there's a big change at the top.
Yeah, I completely agree. The coaching staff is a bit of a strange one. I mean, I know that there seems to be a bit of hatred to Mason for some reason in this fan base, but a lot of people feel like he's not a very good coach. That a lot of people feel like he's going to be a good coach. Conte, when he first come, I think he almost had like a training session that he let Mason put on, and then he said he impressed him. But the others, they're just so young in the jobs. It just feels like Mason. Well, Mason's been around a bit now. He's had 2 caretaker manager roles. He's been involved.
Yeah, but that's not consistently working under one manager doing it at the top, doing it at a level where you're top class. He's just been doing it at Spurs, and he's part of the problem. He is Ryan Mason is part of the problem. However you want to look at it or not, because all of them are not top class coaches and just trying to play top class football. And if you look at the way it went when top class coaches, they usually have their staff with them. They usually take them around with them. They rotate after a certain amount of years when there's new coaching methods, new things. Yeah, and they integrate, so they do it one at a time. They don't do a whole new thing. Ferguson was the best at it. How many assistant managers did Ferguson have that literally never overlapped each other so he could change his way? So for me right now, I'm looking at going, the coaching staff is probably the biggest issue. And I've said this from day one. When he couldn't bring the guy from Celtic, it was curtains. It was complete curtains for the rest of the season, because all of them are learning Ange as well. They don't have a relationship. You have to build relationships with your coaching staff and everything like that. Otherwise, things don't work. It's like when all of us go to work. When we go working for somebody, if you notice the teams that have been together 4 or 5 years and know each other, know how they perform better. Teams that are just put together in 2 minutes, you might get results at the beginning, but then it's like a relationship. It's great at the beginning. Middle is, you have to work at it, and then it depends if you get through that middle whether it's going to work out or not. And I feel like that's the biggest problem at Spurs right now.
Poch had that, didn't he, as well? Poch had the 3 coaches around him that he took everywhere, and they all stayed loyal. Exactly. They all stayed with him, and
they can progress it through. Where Ange is now, he's had one assistant from last year. Guy, he went off to Birmingham, and then he's had to bring in another one. So it's all starting again. And
is it fair to say that is maybe something that there's a fault of Ange's, as in Ange hasn't built up that relationship in particular with a specific assistant manager?
I agree, and I think Kennedy would have been the perfect man. Because Ange never worked at the top level. Yeah, he's never worked at the top level. So, and when we say the top level, you're talking about like doing it in Celtic was brilliant, and he ended up with a good coach. He just ended up with a good coach. He's come to Tottenham where he tried to bring that coach with him. That was the first time he's ever tried to do it. But Brendan Rodgers basically said he stays, otherwise I don't come. So Celtic went, all right, cool. So Ange then got left on his own a little bit, and I don't think you can go to top leagues, especially somewhere like the Premier League, and think you can just start again, because we have some intelligent managers in this league, and there's some intelligent managers at different clubs. And you are talking about Brighton, Bournemouth, and the clubs that are lower that you'd say are not big clubs. They've got good coaches too, whether we like it or not. And this is why the Premier League is probably the most watched and could be the most ruthless. Now, you just go watch Celtic in Europe for the last 2 seasons. When he's come up against better coaches, never works. So you do have to start questioning whether Ange could really make it at the top level, or is his football only sustainable till you get to a certain point. So if he went and managed MK Dons in League 1 or League 2, wherever they are now, you'd probably get him to the Championship, get him to the Premier League, and it'd be a bit like Bielsa. Bielsa came up with Leeds, great football, but they just couldn't last because they kept getting injuries, they kept getting problems, and that's why it took Leeds to go and get someone else. Yes, they got relegated eventually, but sometimes you can't play that sort of football if you don't have the top players and top coaches behind you.
It is a bit of a strange one in doing that. I've never known anyone to. I know that some people take a couple. They'll take a couple of coaches. But as you said with Poch, you'll take the assistant, normally the goalkeeping coach as well. But to take no one is a real strange way of looking at things. I agree, Marlon, but you do need to start freshening it up. You don't want the same people hearing the same voices. But to change every single person, it is a real. And then to think how we went on such a good run up for the first 10 games. It's just, how is that even possible when everyone's still getting to grips with what's going on? And it weren't like he took over a team in great form or anything like that.
That was down to the not everyone in the Premier League not knowing Ange, and then once it all got found out, and Gary O'Neill basically went on Sky Sports and basically told everyone how to play against Ange. And I tell you that now, since that day, Ange's results have been absolutely awful. It was the blueprint. The blueprint was out.
You can't come in here and just start slagging off Ange. It don't work like that, man.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm not even. I'm on the fence as well. That's the weirdest thing about it. I'm on the fence with it all. But
when I first came on your channel, you was out, and I kept saying, "I'm going to get you in just for a laugh."
No, I was on the fence because you were in. I always sit on the fence with it because I get Ange problems. But I've always had a problem with certain bits, and I said from day dot, and I warned people when Ange came in, because I did follow Celtic at the time. I said he's going to be exactly like Ozzy Ardelius. You're going to win one, you're going to lose one. You're going to win one 4-1, but you'll end up losing another one the week after. It's never going to be consistent enough because that's the way it is, and the nature of the beast. It's followed that suit.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we haven't. Win one, lose one has definitely been the kind of theme in it. I mean, we've gone on runs of losing far too many, to be honest. But do you feel like he was brought in because I feel like towards the end of the last few managers, we've constantly been saying, I don't know why the team are dropping back. Why are they dropping back? And there were managers and players that come out and said that wasn't an instruction. They just done that naturally. So if you've brought in Andrews, the complete opposite end of the spectrum, do you then need to find that balance? And is another manager coming in going to get that balance better?
I don't know if they'll find the balance. That's the problem. I feel like right now, the biggest issue we have is we've got loads of these young players. And I mean, if you look at the rumors allude to the fact that we're going to lose all of our experience because Romero's pretty much on his way out. Basuma could be on his way out. Bentancur could be on his way out. So that's already 3 of our You could say whether they're senior players by their acts, probably not. But when you talk about age and people that have been around and been a bit more experienced, those are 3 of those players. The problem is we're not actually looking, and all of our summer targets are about 19. I've seen Chris Rigg, I see Joe Bellingham, I see what's his name, Tyler Diblin. I don't see no experienced players that we're being linked with, and that's where one of my biggest issues and worries are. And finding the balance with the squad is, I think we're a long way from there. I generally wouldn't be surprised, like the position we're at right now. We won't be much better next year. It's going to take us a few years to get back to the point where we was under even Conte, let alone Pochettino.
God, that's damning. So you think we're going to be roughly about where mid-table, you say?
I wouldn't say mid-table. I think next year, even if we make some solid signings, because you asked the question before, what do we need? We need obviously a multifunctional forward. We need someone that can play in off the left. I'd say I don't want to sign Tell. I would say that I don't think he's of the required level. Plus, he's a young player. I don't think we go and spend 50 to 60 million pounds on another young player. We need experience. So we don't sign Tell. We need a left winger. We need a right winger. We also need. I'd say if we get rid of Richarlison, we need someone like Acuna who can play central, play left, do sort of what Richarlison does, but just at a higher level, and someone that's more comfortable, let's just say, playing off the wing, but they can fill in the middle for when Solanke's out. We also need a 6. That's been apparent for a very long time. We need someone in the 6 who can hold the base of our midfield. If Romero leaves, we're going to need a centre-back replacement and a top-quality centre-back replacement at that, because although I like Danso, we still need someone to compete with him, because if we go into the season with Danso, Mickey, and Dragusin and Viskovic, we're in the same place we're in this year, and Davies. It's just not good enough. And then, of course, we need left-back. We need someone to compete with Udogie long-term, and I suppose Jed Spence and Pedro Porro will be good enough to get us for another year. So I just feel like we need a lot of positions, a lot of players, and are Spurs going to sign experience in all those positions? That's where the question lies. So, yeah, man, it's one of those ones. It's a bit tough to find the balance in this squad when it doesn't look like we're trying to make that happen.
We've had gaping holes in this squad. I mean, that right wing position, we literally have one Brennan Johnson, and Kulusevski you could argue as well, but I think he's much better in the middle. But we've needed a right winger since probably 2 years ago, and we just don't seem to go and sign these players. And then you go to the left wing. I agree. I do think we need someone who can play across the front, but we've got about 8 left wingers at the moment at the club. I just feel like the squad balancing and the squad planning is just absolutely horrendous. I mean, even if, let's say, we do win the Europa League, I generally think that we'll have to go and sign someone like Kyle Walker-Peters, because we're going to get rid of White. Is probably going to go next year. Whiteman, sorry. So that means that all you've got is Austin as a club trained player. So we need to get the club trained players. You need to have.
And he may even push to go as well, because he's had a chance. As I said earlier, he had a chance and then got dropped the next game because we signed a new keeper.
He's on a 5-year deal, so he's on a 5-year deal a couple of months back. So even if he wants to go there, he's staying. He's locked in. But so then
Harry came back.
You know what? I mean,
I'd pay the money and get him back. At least you know what you're getting.
You better make sure Bayern win that title first. Otherwise, ain't getting nowhere.
If Bayern go and win them titles, mate, he's coming back to break the record. But I've done this every year, the same I did with Bao. So every year he's coming back, and he'll probably come back when he's 87.
Do you know what? Yeah. In something that George said though, like if we went and bought 3 players, 2 wingers and a DM, I wouldn't be unhappy with that if they were experienced.
Yeah.
And I'd probably sit there and go, you know what, I can live with that for another year. I can live with Richarlison leaving and Dane Scarlett being the backup and Lancashire being the backup. I could probably live with that for another season. But if you're going to do that, it can't be under Ange. That's my only caveat. It just can't be under Ange, because I don't think he will get the best out of a squad that thin for next season, even if 1 game a week.
Yeah. He definitely likes to play where he's bringing on subs and he needs to be able to like.
He misses Højbjerg. He misses Højbjerg, and that's really, really like damning on us when we're going, oh crap, he's missing Højbjerg to come on. And that's probably where people don't realise that sub he used to make all the time was because they were running for our midfield and Højbjerg would just shore it up for the last 20 minutes. Yeah. That's all he was there for.
That's what a lot of, I keep getting on people's channels, and that's the first thing they say is I've never seen him make a sub to change a game. I'm like, every single time he brought on Højbjerg last year, he changed the game literally every single time. But there's levels to the football, and you should not be trying to get a Højbjerg in. That should not be the kind of.
Well, we need a better version of Højbjerg to start for us, and I think that's where George was saying we're like the number 6. If we went out and got a proper. I know Ange don't like them, but they should just force it on him and go. You've clearly seen what the Premier League's about. Most decent teams in the Premier League will have a decent DM, as they say, number 6. Just go and get it for him, because that's the only way you're breaking that barrier. You cannot allow what we've allowed, where players are running through our midfield against Benzema and Basuma, and it's the same situation every single time.
Yeah,
we've conceded the same goal probably about 1,000 times this season. Like the same shots. Like we have way too many shots against us, and that's one of the massive issues.
I think the problem is though, and the problem that we're going to find is when you're trying to find that blend of youth and experience, you're also not trying to block pathways, but you need to add competition without making sure that there's enough game time. When you have one game a week, that's where the struggle is, because you can sign better players, more experienced players, but then the club, like them, they have done already, put themselves in a horrible position with a player like Archie Gray, who they've guaranteed game time. Looked good. He needs to build upon this season, so you can't keep him out. You can't not play him. Like you know what I mean? It just puts us in a horrible position. I ain't a guy that's gonna sit here and say, I think we should sign someone better than Archie Gray, put him on the bench and play him. But clearly, there's stuff in his contract to allude to the fact that he needs minutes. He needs to play. And unless we get a manager that's come in that's going to be arrogant to that fact, then we're going to be stuck in this situation.
But if you're going to play Archie Gray and it's going to be a detriment to the team, why are you doing it? And this is the big question, because he's clearly shown this season. I'm always going to say this. He's not very good at defending. He's shown it. He's good on the ball, and that's where everyone raves about him. He's good at pushing the ball forward. But as soon as he's put in any defensive structure, and even when he played DM against Fulham, it was again. When it came to the defending part of it and being in the right position, everyone goes, he will learn from being in central defence. He hasn't learned a thing. And I don't know if that's down to the coaching or if that's down to him personally. But I think when you look at someone like Archie Gray, him and Bergwijn are basically going to be competing for the same position. That's how I look at it. Because Bergwijn, again, has come on leaps and bounds this season, and he's going to be a special player. Whether it's for us or not is a complete different question. But this is why I think they need someone experienced in that midfield. Because for me, and I actually agree with George with the bit with where do you go? Because like I said, if I go and get 2 wingers, but you are then stopping Mikey Moore coming through.
Yeah, but again, that comes down to planning. Why have we need to plan better? Like this is what I'm saying about Ange. This is for me that where the all the issues run far deeper, and that's why. In terms of you get your director of football in, which seems to be the kind of way that we're going. We're bringing in someone like a Langer who's determined things. And he should be putting in place, this is what we go, this is where we're going to be. More, for instance, by the time he's 19, he goes and he fits in. Like, if you rattle off the left wingers that we've got, I mean, Solomon's out on loan, you've got Moore, Richarlison plays there, Son plays there, Odebear. Like, what is going on? Like, who's sitting there going, let's put this together? I'm sure everyone sits there at the start of the season and pecks out their 11, and you go, why have I got 8 players that all play in the same? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Who's making these decisions?
But you look at it. So let's take Enquiries at Arsenal. I have to mention him because him and Mikey Moore were the 2 players that people have been talking about. But yet Arsenal have managed to shoehorn and give Enquiries the most amount of minutes that he can without hampering his development and without actually putting too much pressure on him. And it's done him the world of good. Spurs, okay, Mikey Moore was injured or was ill, I don't know which one, right, for a period. But since he's been back,
3 months, doesn't make no sense. I thought you caught an STD or something. Like, what's going on, bro?
Yeah.
Illness kept him out for that long. I'm there confused. Like,
a few years back, everyone had said COVID, know that, but God knows what it was. He was out for ages.
And this is the thing, whether he's come back and it's a case of he still has it and it is something serious, the club needs to kind of communicate this, because everyone's looking at going, what the hell are you doing? You're stopping someone's pathway, and whether they want to communicate or not, but I just don't get it, because Mikey Moore should be on that bench no matter what.
Yeah.
The fact he went and played for the under 18s and under 17s a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
And we had a Europa. I think we had the Europa League game the next day. And you're like, what are you doing? Let's go back to Elfsberg. Who got us the 3-0 win?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the game you're talking about as well. I think the game before in the Premier League, like a few days earlier, Werner can't play in the Europa League, and he brought him on, didn't he, with like 15, 20 minutes to go, and it was like, what are you doing? I think Werner now that when they signed him off the Europa League squad, I think everyone thought, right, we probably ain't going to see him again. But I feel like as well, like with a lot of our youngsters, our youth loans are dreadful. So it can't even be like with Mikey Moore where you can go, actually, what we'll do next year, we'll send him out somewhere, he'll play loads of football. Because I know Donnelly's done it this year in Keighley, but normally we send youths out and they don't play or they have terrible loans. Look at Dane Scarlett. He's been on about 30 loans and he's made about 4 appearances. And he's probably played more for us than he has for like Oxford or whatever. It's just mad. We can't seem to get any loans right.
Yeah, but to be fair, he's played really well. He's played all right for us. He's done actually better than I thought it was going to be. And I think I've actually looked at him and everyone's going, Lancashire. But what I've seen of Lancashire and Dane Scarlett, I think Dane Scarlett's more ready for the Premier League than what Lancashire was. And like, it's not like Lancashire's turning up trees at West Brom. He's had a few pockets of games here and there. Don't get me wrong. But he's not producing what you'd expect if he's going to be a Premier League player in the chat. He should be producing it week in, week out. But he's young. He's going to learn. And he's experienced at West Brom now. Like I've just said, if it's going to be Solanke, Scarlett, and Lancashire next year, I'll be all right with that. I'm not going to sit there and...
Even that, he signed for West Brom, and then a day later they signed another striker. I think it might be wrong, but I'm sure it was that Aaron Conley.
Was it Adam Armstrong?
So you go, hang on a minute. He's been playing games in the Premier League. You've signed him, and then now you've gone and signed another striker. So I'm sitting there thinking again, it's another loan that we've gone and signed sold a player or loaned a player, and he probably ain't even gonna play. Like it's just. Again, I feel like it just looks at the squad and who puts this all together, and it just absolutely baffles me. So, moving on to the final part, what are your hopes for next season? And the reason why I'm saying that now is because when we get to next season, we can have a little review and see how wrong we all got it. All right, obviously.
Who's going first?
You want to know what my prediction was at the start of the season?
No, what are your thoughts for next year? What do you?
Next year. Oh, you're trying to get. I thought you was. Oh man, it's early. If Xavi Hernandez comes, let's just say that this will change drastically. But I think for the moment, I think we become a top 8 side again. I think we'll become a top 8 side. Just don't know how much further on from that we will. I think we're going to be a very young squad. It's going to be maybe an exciting team because you're going to watch a lot of young players coming through, like the Bergvall, Archie Grays start. You might see some of the other players take a bit more of an onus to perform. Maybe Jed Spence having a sustained period in the team. But I don't know. I can just only say top 8. I can't really look forward onwards from that. I don't think we go much higher.
Do you think we'll be in Europe?
It depends how the transfer window goes, isn't it? It does. At the moment, I'm not convinced we're going to sign a lot of experienced players. If we get a lot of experienced players, I think we will. But if we don't, and we do have the young squad like I think it's going to be, then yeah, I don't think we will.
You don't have no faith in Ange?
No faith in Ange at all.
Come on, and Marlon, stick your neck on the line. What do you think?
It depends on who's in Europe next year for me. Say Bournemouth and Fulham and all them teams are in Europe, and Brighton. I think we'll probably be about 8th or 9th. If it's going to be Ange, then yeah, probably 8th or 9th. I can't see us doing any better than that. We're relying on, if Romero goes, I think that's going to be a big miss. Van Ven is not. If he can't stay fit, we're screwed if we don't sign a replacement for him as well. If it is going to be Danso, Dragusin, and the guy that's on loan, he's in Belgium. So if it's going to be one of them again, yeah, because everyone's all talking about that guy and he's like scoring all these goals, but that's not what we want him for. I want to know if he can defend. He's a defender. Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Most of the reports are saying that basically on the ball he's very good defensively. He's aerially he's unbelievable, but his big issue is his pace. and he had an interview recently. There's like a Belgian reporter who's a Spurs fan, and he basically had an interview with him and Devine, and even Vučković was like, "Yeah, my pace needs to improve." So he must be slow, like, because to come out and sort of say, "Yeah, this is what I'm really like, he must be really, really." So
unless he reads the game very well, because that if you ain't got the pace, you have to read the game very well, and that's the bit that if he can do that, then he doesn't need pace. Because someone like Gareth, let's take Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate never had pace, but he read the game so well that it just counteracted that. But yeah, for me, if it's going to be under Range, it ain't going to be much different. It's going to be win loss, win loss, win loss.
Douglas Luiz, yeah. Is that who we should sign?
What was that?
Douglas Luiz, is that who we should sign?
Oh no! That's just responding to Danny KC. I mean, he'd be a pretty good signing. I might be able to make the call, you know.
Hey, I was having a little look, thinking.
What?
Like, trying to think of
we call him Do-Rag Diaries when he plays poorly, though.
Oh, that will 100% happen. That will 100% happen. They'll be in my chat all the time. Douglas Luiz. Yeah, I remember.
What are you doing streaming?
We should sign him just for that, for no other reason, just that when he has an absolute stinker.
It's gonna be horrible because you know those like what they do with Troops and Sancho. This is gonna be a picture of me raging, Douglas Luiz, stinker and hooked. Like, what's he doing on YouTube now? Screaming, like, get back on the pitch. It's just gonna be. I'm gonna get cooked, man.
The only thing is that if we bring Luiz through, does that mean Lehman follows him? Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting. Now everyone's like, "Oh, I know I could take that signing."
I think that one will cause some unrest in the camp. You got too many young bulls, young lions trying to leave their mark. I think Douglas Luiz might have a problem with that one.
I was looking at him. Bringing someone in who's got Premier League experience, he's not playing that regular. He sits in that position. I thought he was a decent option.
He is a good player, yeah.
And in the last probably minute or so, I think we should get him. I've gone from, I'm not sure, but just for him dropping a stinker, then I think we should do it 100%. There you go. But if there's any scouts in the chat that have a chat.
Hey, George, if you sign, you have to rebrand your whole channel.
It'll be a nightmare.
So then, Chris, come on, what are your hopes for the season? You're not
for next season.
Yeah.
I think I just want to go back to actually enjoying putting on the TV and watching Spurs again, because at the minute I just put it on and I'm like, oh, what are we going to get? What is it going to be?
Don't own a TV next year then. Come on, get rid of it.
Exactly, yeah. So
that's it, done.
I think a solid transfer window would be good. Seeing players go that everyone knows need to go, seeing some, as you say, some well-established names coming in that's going to improve the team, even give us some more squad depth as well, get some players in for the squad depth. And then I don't know if Ange will do it or not, but if we can get back to just playing exciting football again that everyone wants to see as a Spurs fan, that if games are going to be 4-3 but we win them, I think I'd be quite happy just to see that excitement back, to watch us actually play decent football. But I think it all depends on the transfer window and what happens sort of June, July time with the higher ups and how the review, as they're calling it, goes from everyone.
Yeah, I really think that having Europe and not having Europe changes our transfer window drastically. If we do get Europe, as I said, the homegrown, the club trained issue is massive. That will need to be addressed. We can't go into the season and have what it'll be free spaces on it, because I think Whiteman's contract ends, so all we'd have is Austin. I don't see how we can go into a Europa League season with 22-man squad. I think it's just mad. Go on, Marlon. What was you going to say?
I was going to ask George a question, because this is and actually Danny in why is it chatting as well. So if we don't have Europe next year, Bournemouth do you still think we're going to be able to attract the better players, even though Bournemouth are going to? Do you think?
Because I had this conversation when I had to bring Wolfie back down to earth regarding Nottingham Forest, whether they get Champions League football or not. When you're going to go look to sign a player like, of top quality, they look at sustained success across 3 to 4 years, because they're signing contracts that are going to be let's have it right. Most contracts nowadays are 5+ year contracts. You don't really see 3 or 4 year deals. It's very rare. Some of them are 6, 7 year contracts. So these players are looking to secure their future, and only Bournemouth can't afford to, be like, yes, they're going to sign a player, put him on 6 years at 100k a week, 150k a week. They just can't do it. They're not going to be able to afford that and sign those players. Plus, those players know themselves. Yeah, if you go to a Bournemouth and they have a bad season, everyone's going to look to leave. The manager's probably going to leave, and their bad season is probably dropped so far low below what we would. That they're not going to be in a position to get back up. Whereas for us, although yes, we are in a bad place right now, I think it's fair to say probably in across the last 25 years, we've finished in below the top 10 3 or 4 times. So it's very rare that Spurs get ourselves into a position where we're not playing European football. I think we've only not played European football in the last 15 years, I think twice. So the Spurs are never really in this position. So players are always going to be attracted to that and want to be around that. But yeah, as Danny says here, Newcastle and Aston Villa, that's where we'll struggle if we're going in for players the same with them, because Newcastle in particular, they're on the verge of something big. I've been saying, I think, especially with this trophy, especially with the money they've got, especially with, the players and team they're building, they're on the verge of something big. Aston Villa, they've just got a really attractive manager who Emery's just... When Emery gives you that call, it's not like he's got 4 Europa Leagues in his cabinet, and that's within the last 10 years. It's currency. Like he does what he does.
The fact he's got Sensio playing at Villa just says it all. Like
it's literally, bro. Yeah. I mean, he has that thing of where he can bring in a lot of European players, and a lot of them will go to Aston Villa because then they're not really looking at any other teams, and they'll just look at league position. They'll be like, oh, Aston Villa sit 5th, they're battling. So yeah, we're going to struggle with that. But apart from the Aston Villas and Newcastles, there's no other team above us right now who would attract better players than us, apart from Man United.
The only thing I will say about Villa though is Villa are operating at like a 92%, aren't they, in their wage bill?
On their wage bill, yeah. So they're
ninth at the moment. Granted, I think they're 3 points off Champions League, but if they end up finishing 9th and no Europe, the amount of players that they're going to have to leave. Will be absolutely ridiculous.
And they literally had to sell Douglas Luiz because of PSR. They sold him because they need to bring money in. So they're already not great.
But with Newcastle, they've got Gordon and Isaac. They're just.
But all them clubs will help each other out, so it doesn't even matter, does it? Like they all helped each other out last summer.
I was literally looking through like net spends and all that because of
the PSR rules. The PSR rules are changing as well because they've realised it's not fit for purpose.
Yeah, some of them signings that they were making, and Villa was shifting players that were never played a Premier League game for 40 million. I'm like,
Newcastle are holding on. Yeah, Newcastle are holding on to that PSR till the PSR rules change slightly, and it's just going to benefit them.
Yeah, they're going to go mad.
Yeah, but Villa are right. It's their wage to thingy that they've got a problem with. And I know they sold. Yeah, and I know they sold Duran, which has kind of brought it back down, but I think they still need, another 2 or 3 players to leave who are on big wages before they can actually start buying again. So yeah, it's interesting.
I'm glad.
But no, if Emery stays though, they'll still produce something. They'll still produce something spectacular.
Well, yeah, because if next year they don't get Euro,
they can still have a good Champions League run. You can't write them off. They've got PSG in the next round, and although it's going to be a tough game, I wouldn't write them off completely. Like Emery loves these big European nights against teams that play attacking football. You catch them in the transition and kill them.
If he pulls that off, that's remarkable.
If you go and watch when PSG played Arsenal weren't fantastic that day, but Arsenal caught them, and Villa probably could do something quite similar to PSG. But the way PSG played against Liverpool was like a one-off. If you watch most of their games this season, it was literally just a one-off. And Liverpool have not been great in the cups. They haven't, and the fact they got to the cup final was because they battered us 4-0 in one game. But everyone forgets we beat them 1-0, and we were poor. Liverpool's this season haven't been, apart from the league form, the cup form's been terrible. They got knocked out by Plymouth. I know they made changes. Again, they made changes and still lost. The fact that they went out to PSG and they literally didn't lay a glove on PSG for 2 games, and yet Arsenal were battering them at the Emirates in November, October. So you kind of have to look at it and go, you know what, Villa do have a chance.
Yeah, I think, as I say, I think you're definitely right in terms of the amount of teams that could have Europe next year, and they're the smaller clubs in terms of their squads and things. If they all have European football, then unless they go out early, then I think it's going to be
because there's a chance at the moment that 10 clubs could have Europe next year. There's a massive
in
chance.
total, it can drop to 11.
If Chelsea win the conference, us or Man United win the Europa League, and
the other ones, Villa's got to win the Champions League.
Villa's got to win the Champions League, and it could be like 10 teams in Europe, and you're like, what the hell? That's half the league in Europe, which is madness.
And then imagine the amount of Sunday games you're going to have because everyone's playing on the Thursday because they're
all on TV.
Would you take, like, say for instance, next year we get the Conference League? Would you go all out for that?
We should have gone all out before. No competition is beneath Tottenham. No competition is beneath Tottenham Hotspur.
I think it's getting to that stage, isn't it? 100%.
No,
I'm looking at it the other way around. I think it's beneath me now. I can't, like, after West Ham have won it, I don't want it.
No. I'm not in that way.
Chelsea are probably going to win it this year as well. It's just like me. I'm not going to be a third English team.
But Tottenham don't win enough for me to be sitting there and going, because I've played in Champions League. No, I can't work like that. You have to try and win every competition that you're in. Otherwise, why are we trying to win the League Cup? That's a third-rate competition. For me, you've got to win every single competition you're in. If it's a Manchester United are a team that shouldn't be winning the Conference League. Man United are a team that have been winning Champions League. Them and Liverpool don't win that competition. Arsenal will sit there and say, "Yeah, we're not looking at the Conference League," but they literally have a trophy that a European trophy that don't exist, and they have another European trophy that is not even belonging to UEFA. So they've literally have no pedigree in Europe apart from playing in Champions League. So no one should be looking at that trophy going, "No, it ain't for me." West Ham have won it, but they're the only team that's won it. Was it Mourinho that won it as well? So So when everyone's looking at it, but the Cup Winners' Cup all them years ago was a cup trophy, but people shouldn't be looking at it like that. And eventually, it'll get the pedigree that it's because you have to go to really crap teams at the beginning stage, and that's the biggest issue with it. But once you start getting to the quarters and the semis, it's not easy. It's not an easy competition to win.
Not when you're 14th in the Premier League, eh?
Yeah, well, this is the problem. Right now, Spurs would struggle in the Conference League.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea are just fielding their youth players, basically, and they're not even really taking it seriously. I don't think they really care.
Do you think if Tottenham fielded their youth players in the Conference League, does anybody think we're even winning any games in it?
Yeah. I said that I think we would have done better with our youth players if we played them last time. I think one thing, the problem is when you play youth players, you either have to play loads of them or you play none of them, because you have to play loads of them because they have good chemistry together. Naturally, when they're playing, they're a bit more creative, a bit more fearless than the more senior squad. But when you mix them in with senior players, they want to perform in front of these senior players, and they feel the need to pass the ball to them naturally because there's a hierarchy of understanding. So when they're on the ball, a lot of them are just getting the ball to, like, when Madders is there, you'll see Mikey Moore he's always trying to find Madders because he wants to make the impression. It makes sense, get the ball to Madders, he's going to find me back. But like we saw against Elfsborg, when you throw a lot of them on together, they'll just figure it out because they're good players. They just need to have the fear to, the fearlessness, play with that to go do it. And yeah, I think we should see more youngsters play more often together, to be honest.
Definitely.
Right, so that's pretty much the season wrapped up. Obviously, over the last couple of days, the big talk up, we've kind of touched on it a little bit with Romero leaving or potentially leaving. Does he not seem like the most Atletico Madrid player you've ever seen in your life?
Yeah,
he looks like just a Simeone perfect style.
Him and Ben scored, to be honest, both of them, like, because that was the news. I saw both of them are linked to it. They both just look like perfect Simeone players. 100% passion, 50% technical. Like it just fits in perfectly with the Conor Gallagher's, the Rodrigo de Pauls. All of those types of players. That's right down Simeone's street. And look, give us 60, 70, 80 mil. Bite your hand off. No, I'm not going to complain, to be fair.
So would you take 60?
Yeah, I would. I'll take 60 for Romero. I think at this point it's clear to see Romero's head's not in it. I don't think he's a leader for us, and the level of the drop-off between him and Danso is not massive. So I think although we need someone to replace Romero of Romero's level, I'd be comfortable in saying that like Danso isn't that bad. So if we bring in someone, they'll be competing with Danso, and you can get a good player for 60 million. You can get a Schlotter back. You can get a Ignacio.
Gay.
I'm not a big fan of Gay. I'll be honest. I think he's all right. He's a bit overrated for me. But I get why people do like him. Of course, he does have some good.
Newcastle anyway. He'll end up at Newcastle.
He'll only have a year left, won't he? As well.
Yeah, he'll end up. Yeah, Newcastle. Us trying to sign him in January was never going to happen. It was a smoke screen. Crystal Palace were never going to sell him in the last couple of days. Newcastle want him badly, and will agree a fee this summer.
Captain, English. But and then, so would you sell Bentancur as well? Because I think, does everyone agree Basuma's gone? I think Basuma's
done. He's done in Spurs shirt. I think we sell him for about 12 million. That's how bad he is. I don't think we get anything for him.
So if Atletico come in for Bentancur and Romero, we lose, as you said, literally the only three other than Son probably and maybe Solanke, the experienced players. Do you think we could lose all of them? Because I don't think the problem is I have with this club is I don't think we're going to replace them. So like even with Højbjerg, I think Højbjerg should have gone because we should have brought someone in to replace him, and we never did. So if we lost all three of them, we definitely need a midfielder.
They probably make Højbjerg sign a new contract and he'll stay. I know Marseille have got an obligation to buy, but it's just typical Spurs the way they do.
Yeah, but Sancho and Chelsea have got the option they've got the mandatory to buy, but they have a chance to cancel it for 5 million or something. Have you not seen that?
It's really weird, that deal, man. It's such a weird deal.
And we thought our deal for Cardoso, but that apparently that looks like it's kind of wrapped up as well. So is it one of them going out and Cardoso coming in?
I think Bentancur will go as well with Romero. I don't think we'll keep both.
No, I think Bentancur will go as well.
Yeah, I think he'll go. I think he's had such a bad. When I say bad time at Spurs, nothing just ever seems to work for him. And I think Spurs as a club, I think we will see long term. He's had these injuries, he's had suspensions, he's had just every time he seems to get going, it just suddenly stops. And I just don't think. I think for both parties, it would make sense if he went.
Yeah,
I'm not sitting there saying he's a bad player. I'd love to keep him, but if we are looking at Archie Gray staying in midfield and Cardoso coming in, Bergval's going to play in there. Kulu can play in there. Maddison will obviously play the 10 if he's still here technically. But you're kind of looking at going, where does Bentancur fit into all of this?
Yeah, I can definitely see it. But I just feel like if we get rid of that sort of experience, especially if we get rid of all three of them, we just have to get someone else in. I just can't see how we can go into losing. We were at a position now where we all said that we need more experience, and then we're selling 3 experienced players. So and then the only other thing that I could think of really that has come out recently is the Paratici. I don't know if you've seen the rumours. I said it earlier, but I've actually seen some people say no, they wouldn't want him back.
Crazy.
But what are your thoughts on him coming back?
Brilliant. See anyway.
No, apparently there was
a last minute meeting with Levy, innit? Yeah, where he's offered him everything. And I can't lie, I did get some information the other day. I can't really say sources, but apparently Johan Langer is not. Let's just say the Spurs hierarchy don't have great thoughts of Johan Langer, and they would be willing to move on from him for the right person, which the right person is. I mean, Don Paratici, Levy chased him for 10 years or so.
Can I say that?
And we all know that we never wanted to get rid of him. We only got rid of him because the fact I'm in that same place.
If they get rid of Lang, I'm sorry, Levy has to go. I'm sorry, Levy will have to walk out the door. If Lang goes and they've literally gone and brought him in for what? He knew how bad he was at Villa. Why bring him in?
No, 100%. There's no doubt about that. But I would be all for bringing.
I'm not sitting there saying I like Lang, by the way. It's just the fact is that's a massive enough. He's meant to be good at the business side and bringing people in. I think
Langer could stay in a capacity that his focus is, still bringing in young players because I think he's done well.
They were trying to bring Paratici underneath him, weren't they, or something like that? And Paratici was like, no, and now they're trying to bring him above him.
Yeah, Paratici he would, because when he came in last time, he was considered our head of all football operations. So I'm pretty sure his role would have been about Scott Munn. And so now obviously we got Scott Munn involved. I reckon there's probably some, leeway that's going to have to be given that Don Paratici comes in above Langer, but maybe on like a similar level of Scott Munn. But we need to make it work because Paratici, he's going to be the difference between us in the transfer market signing a top player or not. That's just because he has the links. I don't think Johan Langer has the links to top players, and he ain't got those numbers in his phone book. He just doesn't.
Read the reports. Apparently, all the signings are being finalised by Ange. I mean, Tell flat said no, I'm all right to Langer and to Levy. And then all of a sudden, Ange is on the phone and he changes his mind. I mean,
he said Langer was crying in the meeting, innit? So he called Levy. Levy couldn't do anything.
That parody account's too much, man. That's way too much.
It was. When I saw that, because I took it serious. I'm reading the first lines. It goes, Johan Langer couldn't get the deal done. Word is that he was crying, begging in the meeting for him to come out.
That was brilliant. That parody account was brilliant. I can't wait for that to come back up this summer. That parody account.
The worst part about it is with Spurs, you could never be sure. You could sit there thinking, you know what?
Probably sit there and he would be great. Yeah, right. But I tell you what that deal showed you is that Daniel Levy doesn't have to pull in power anymore. That showed you that's where he is. He's old.
I think everyone seems, when you see people talk about dealing with Levy, they all just go they're all just probably sick of dealing with him.
I can't imagine him being the guy. Like, I'm thinking if I was a player, I don't know whether I'd want him coming over and like from the financial side of things. Like,
he gave Tell an ultimatum, didn't he? He said, "You either come now or the deal's off the table." I'm sorry, we're Tottenham Hotspur, who's sitting in fucking 16th at the time.
Yeah,
Tell's looking at going, I'd rather stay at Bayern and not come to you at all.
Yeah, like, I've got a chance of winning the Champions League
and win a trophy.
And win a trophy, and I can sit on the bench all season. Like, who does Levy think he is? It just baffles me. He's always said he'll always put the club first. This is the first time in his whole career that the best thing for the club would be for him to leave, but he's not going to do that.
Nah, I can't see it. I mean, they reckon that if we do get some investment, he might step aside, but just can't see it.
No, he still wants to stay there as a chairman in some capacity, even if investors come in. And I would take that because I know eventually they can kick him out.
Yeah, I think the business side of things is incredible.
You can't fault what he's done for Spurs, but on the pitch now is where it matters.
But when you say the business side of things, you've got to include the on the pitch format, and I always hate when people use that as a segment because you can do great over here, but you're mismatching what's over here. You're not bringing the two together. Football, is not like any other business.
Oh no, 100%. But obviously,
he's an investor, but he hasn't done anything that in his career and what ENIC do that he hasn't done, like investment properties and that, and making it. That's what he does. He knew when they bought Tottenham, they were knocking down White Hart Lane. That's the first thing they were going to do and build it because they knew that doesn't matter how bad the club is, it was always going to be worth more in a bigger stadium. This is what they're good at.
Yeah, the value of the club is always going to raise.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything they wasn't able to do before. So when people say he was good at the business side of things, you go, but that when it comes to football, you have to include the football, and there's that happy medium. And unfortunately, he has shown, especially since Poch has gone, that he's not good at that side of things.
Yeah. No, 100%. But that's the problem is with business, you go and you go to the stuff that you're going to make money from. That's what he's like.
Yeah, so and that's what he's done. Yeah,
with football, you can't. There's nothing guarantees in football unless you just go and spend ridiculous amounts. So
he doesn't. You don't even have to spend ridiculous amount because if you take Liverpool, who don't like their owners, they haven't spent ridiculous amounts as much as people think. They've spent. Everyone uses Van Dijk and Alisson as an example, but when you look at all their other signings, they haven't been world-breaking signings where you go, "Oh my God, he was untainable."
But that's the wages again. That's the wages again that we don't.
And this is your issue. This is always going to be your issue. So unfortunately for me, I'm just looking at it going, well, if you want to be blinded by what's going on over here, and everyone sees he's a great businessman, but if like the whole Lang situation, if it's true that they want to get rid of Lang already, you're looking at going. The manager side of things, that's all part of the business. And you have to look at it and go, it all comes together. And I couldn't care less if he was here or not. I don't care. Like, the ground is brilliant. The training ground, for some reason, he seems to think it will attract players. No, it doesn't. A winning football team attracts players.
Yeah. There is that 100%. Well, that has been a good, lovely first stream, I must say. We had over like 15, 20 people in here the whole time. The video's on like 30 likes, I think. So massive thank you to everyone. Appreciate that everyone was on time and didn't just leave me to just linger on my own. I appreciate that. So thank you very much. But
he's having a dig, isn't he, George?
I mean, it was my fault, but as well as, again, I'm a throw the blame at Dan and Jay, because Dan and Jay just wanted to have like an Ange show, and from the start of the show I said, guys, we're gonna get to Ange, but they just couldn't hold it off. They wanted to speak. We spoke about Ange for about half hour, 40 minutes in total on a manager tier ranking list.
So I'm gonna sit there and say that it's still George's fault. He can blame them two, but who invites them two on the show, right? Thinking it's not gonna kick off.
I've never actually watched the show with them together. I knew that I knew that naturally their opinions were very different. And I know what Dan's like. I know what Jay's like. But I never. Now I know that that's a boardroom talk show that I need to do. So it's gonna be fun. We're gonna make it happen.
More content. So go on, George. Shout out. Everyone here is probably from your channel anyway, but shout out where they can find you.
Oh yeah, man. Durag Diaries. If you don't know, you get to know. You see Luke on my channel, you see Marlon on my channel, and hopefully one time you'll see Chris on my channel. And yeah, plenty of content to come. I don't think I have any more lives planned at the moment, but yeah, man, show some love, subscribe to the channel, and you'll see if there's anything come out.
Cheers, mate. And Marlon?
Yeah, Spurs Kings TV. I'll be surprised if people don't know who we are by now as well. But look, we're growing.
I think this is the first time that a channel like me has had two superstars on YouTube on their own. So.
Well done, Chris. You're the superstar. Well done.
Chris, you're here as well, mate. You're here as well.
No, yeah. So I've got I've got another video dropping which George is in tomorrow. So Luke, you were part of the first one. Another one tomorrow. It's going to drop. But yeah, to be honest, I hate international break and FA Cup weekend when it comes to Spurs because we're not usually in it. So just got a lot of things going on. But yeah, just hit us up. We'll always try and get guests on. And Chris, I'll be reaching out to you to come on as well, mate, on our one.
No problem. It'd be a pleasure.
And then Chris, where can people find you, mate?
In the depths of Scotland. Yeah. I think this has been a good sort of eye-opener for me, so I'll definitely start maybe trying to dabble a bit more and see how we get on.
All right, well, listen, the link's in the description anyway for Durag Diaries and Spurs Kings TV. Really appreciate all the support. First live. Unfortunately for you lot, I'll definitely be back. So have a good evening. Peace out.
Peace.